Hello and welcome to the fiscal 22 Q3 Secure Stage Strategy Review. My name is Hillary Benson and I'm Director of Product Management for Secure and Protect. Today the team's going to go and share a number of updates and accomplishments from the last quarter, and we'll provide some highlights of our work in Q3 and beyond as well. To start things off, I want to quickly refresh your memory on the focus of our one-year plan in Secure, and then we'll move on to talking about all the updates over the last quarter. So we have three primary areas of focus. AST leadership is first among them. As we touched on in our last quarterly review, GitLab was named a challenger in the 2021 Gartner Magic Quadrant for application security testing, which was a huge boon for us, being so young in the security game here at GitLab. So we continue to focus on moving our category maturities forward across the board with clear intent to assume, not just a challenger position, but a leadership position in the space. Other key areas of focus for us include dogfooding, which for this quarter includes an internal initiative to turn on security approvals in the GitLab project itself. And then third, also enabling security for everyone by bringing secure OSS scanners to core, which you've seen happen over the course of this year. So that's the overall focus for our one-year plan for Secure. However, I do want to touch on a set of specific Q3 initiatives that you've no doubt heard about by now in various contexts. And that certainly have bearing on what's in progress and what's coming up for Secure. So product and development teams across all of GitLab have made the GitLab hosted first fiscal 22 investment theme our top priority for Q3. And as I'm sure you've heard elsewhere, one of the main motivators for that focus is that we're racing to keep up with the pace of growth in our GitLab hosted offering, and the demands on the product have just grown to a point that it warrants serious and concerted focus right now. So the implication of that focus for Secure, as is the case for most product teams across the company, is that our PM team has largely, but not entirely, shifted priority away from new feature development and dedicated our engineering resources to address primarily reliability, scalability, performance, and security issues for the next few months. So the Secure PMs today will highlight what that focus translates to for each of our groups, and we'll also speak to some of the feature functionality that we still plan on delivering during this time frame. But thought it was just worth noting up front that the company-wide focus on this theme for the quarter is certainly a major driver for our priorities. So with that, I will hand it over to Matt, and he can take us through what's going on in Threat Insights.
Thanks, Hillary. Let me get a screen share going here real quick. So one of the things for Threat Insights, following on what Hillary just mentioned, is for the last few milestones and continuing forward for the next at least one or two, Threat Insights is doing a lot of work to support our SaaS reliability and focus. Threat Insights maintains a prioritization issue, so you can follow along at home if you'd like. The difference, if you've looked at this in the past, is these top items are all things that are really pieces that we need to shore up. Some of it is older bits of code. Some of it are things that need to refactor for various performance or stability reasons. A lot of this is due to the incredible amount of uptake of usage of our security features, scanners in particular, on GitLab.com. So this work is the main, or really the only focus of our backend engineers right now. This has pushed out some of the upcoming and, in fact, in progress feature work to probably Q4. But the upside of all this is we should expect the ability to scale forward with future growth in terms of vulnerability management and scanning inside of MRs, pipelines, et cetera. So as a refresher, this is going to bring us back down into the regular priorities list that still really remains the same. Things that I want to call out, if you remember from last time, the same upcoming items, manually creating a vulnerability. So this is one feature which we may actually have part of coming out in the next milestone or two. We'll have the backing API for this, so you can manually create a vulnerability record against any project you like via API. This will be great for integrating in results, maybe from some sort of an external scanning source or something like a vulnerability disclosure or bug bounty program. This work will actually build the UI on top of that, so you can create a record directly inside of GitLab from a vulnerability report. The next thing that we'll focus on after that will be auto-resolving vulnerabilities. So this is basically a setting when our scanners detect that a previous vulnerability is no longer in the same place it found it before. it assumes that it has been resolved or remediated. This setting will take that manual step of having to go in and actually select it and then select resolved by a person. So this should be a great efficiency gain to teams that are kind of trying to automate as much of their security as possible. And then finally, integrating developer security training. So this one is actually really top of mind. As of late, I've talked to a lot of developers as part of UX interviews, and a big piece of feedback is they would love to get small bits of in-context training when it comes to doing security findings. This is pretty much what we're going to deliver with this. And it is taking in training from external content partners and putting it right inside of like the MR or your vulnerability records based off of the identifier of the vulnerability. So quick micro lessons for security. And that's what we're looking to tackle over the next 3 to 6 months, roughly, in Threat Insights. And that, and my dog's barking at me, I will turn it over to the next person.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So in Protect, we actually have a couple areas that have some shared interest and overlap with Secure. The first thing that I wanted to share today is the new updates we've made to the vulnerability check rules, where it's much more granular. Previously, these vulnerability check rules only triggered on critical highs and unknowns. And for all scanners, there's a lot more flexibility here. You can customize which scanners apply, the number of vulnerabilities that trigger the approval rule, and how many approvals are required in the different severity levels that will trigger this. So this is a great incremental improvement that the team made in the last 3 months, and more to come as we continue to improve on this and move it into the security policy area. Secondly, I wanted to highlight on our security orchestration roadmap this week. Actually, we just defaulted our feature flag to on to turn on our security policy management in the UI. We now have support for DAST and secret detection policies, with support for SAST coming shortly thereafter, as well as after that, we'll be working to bring this up to the group and workspace levels, whereas right now it's only at the project level. All in all, our vision for this area is really broad. It takes a full slide with a whole lot of boxes to even start to cover all of it. And even then, I'm sure there are things that are missing from this. But you can see we do plan to eventually support all of the different kinds of scanners and also have this available at all of the different levels within GitLab, the project group and workspace. Lastly, I wanted to highlight that we did release the container scanning for production environments in an alpha state in the last 3 months. And we're continuing to work on that to get it fully GA and production ready for customers to use. Right now, it's a cluster image scanner. So it goes out and it analyzes any images for any containers that are running in production. Again, we plan to continue to improve on that in the upcoming months with a whole lot of improvements on our long-term roadmap, such as including the operating system packages in our dependency list, and even moving away from scans being executed in pipelines towards pipeline-less scans that are really fast. So we've got a lot of exciting things planned upcoming there on the container side, scanning side as well. With that, I will turn it over to Taylor and SAST.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I don't have anything to share, but there are lots of links in the meeting notes, so feel free to click into any of those. So to start, SAST and static analysis is focused on a lot of performance, reliability, and scale work. When you think about static analysis within the context of Secure, we're one of the largest contributors to job runs, given the number of analyzers we have and scale at which we run. So this work is really important to us. There's a lot that we have planned here. Feel free to look at that issue and how we're looking to reduce the load on the entire system and improve efficiency long-term for static analysis. With that said, between this performance work and our product work, we don't have enough resources to go around. So currently secret detection and code quality are considered to be on ice. I do not expect any meaningful progress to be made on those feature developments until probably spring of 2022. We'll keep reevaluating this and try to pull this in as we can, but our focus right now is on SAST. We as part of that, are in the process of some major migrations with static analysis, specifically with SAST. We're transitioning to SimGrep, which is an open source security scanner. We have 15 open source security analyzers today. That's a lot to maintain for us. There's a lot of complexity scattered across all of those analyzers with different implementation details. So as we're transitioning to SimGrep, this gives us a number of wins. This is less analyzers to maintain. This is a shared query language and reduced number of maintained implementations. This gives us commonality for rule sets and simplifies a lot of the interface with all of the different SAST analyzers. There's also a very large community of SimGrep rules and rule writers, of which we contribute to as well. SimGrep is also a very flexible engine that's feature aligned with our roadmap. So there's lots of benefits to why we're transitioning to SimGrep. So we will continue that transition. This is part of that focus of trying to reduce the number of jobs that we're running as well, rather than different analyzers running individual jobs. SimGrep is just one job that has many, many rules. We are also in the process of building a proprietary analyzer as well. This is through a partnership with the vulnerability research team. We basically want to have more control over our detection rules and how we interact with the other security scanners. We want to have more depth and breadth in our detection capabilities without adding more analyzers. And that is really the focus of this new proprietary analyzer, which internally you may hear referred to as VET. So in the near term, we're focused this engine on reducing false positives. So in 14.3, you'll see a release that will introduce a user experience in the vulnerability management suite and merge request UI that will allow you to see when we detect that analyzer results are potentially false positives. We're starting initially with that as informational context, but eventually we'll expand that to allow customers to just not see false positives at all. Long-term, we want to change this from just a post analyzer that's validating results into actual detection rules. So we will be writing detection logic into this proprietary analyzer supporting individual languages. The engine is also capable of detecting more sophisticated vulnerabilities. It builds an abstract syntax tree and allows you to do data and control flow analysis. So long-term, that is really the direction of where we're headed with our static analysis tools. This eventually will replace some of our open source analyzers and complement SimGrep, but we're talking a year plus out at this point. The last piece is data quality and accuracy. Because of the richness of that proprietary analyzer, we're able to have much more accurate findings. If you click that link there, you'll see how we're starting to look at the coverage of CWEs across all of our supported languages and trying to ensure that we have great coverage and efficient coverage. The last thing I want to quickly talk about is integrating with the platform better. So as you know, static analysis recently took over code quality. Code quality released, it introduced an inline annotations feature, which it'll show that degradation in line with the code view files. That's something that we want to bring to the rest of the security scanners. So we'll start initially with rolling out that for SAST and secret detection. So really trying to make it easier for developers to see contextually the vulnerabilities that exist in their source code. I'll also mention this is a bit of a strategic play for us because with our VS Code GitLab plugin, we will be able to pull in some of that context into IDEs and highlight those vulnerabilities within the context of a developer's IDE. I do want to be really clear here. This does not mean live scanning. We do not have plans to do live scanning in the developer IDE. This is purely displaying previously detected vulnerabilities in an IDE using this inline annotations feature. So that is how we're improving the accuracy and scale and scope of the scanners and integrating them better into the larger platform. And with that, that wraps up static analysis, and I'll hand it over to Nicole for composition analysis.
Thanks.
So as you heard at the beginning of the call, I'm one of the groups that deprioritized all my feature work so that we could create space for the GitLab hosted first initiatives. And what we've proceeded to do in the past couple months was we have always kept our S1 and S2s in SLO, and we're actually at this point helping some other teams with their S1 and S2s. So we're continuing to knock all of those out. We also made a lot of progress on improving our test setup. If anyone tried to do a community contribution previously, we hope that this is a lot less painful process to verify your changes into composition analysis. And we did create a bunch of backlog items, so we're going to continue iterating and slowly improving that whole way that we structure our tests, not necessarily what we're testing, because we had test coverage for everything, but just the way that it's structured so that it's easier to run locally, which doesn't matter to you unless you're contributing to the code, but everybody can contribute. So obviously at GitLab, it matters to everyone. Now, coming up in the next set of months, which at this point I'm going to say is actually the next calendar year, because we're probably going to finish with the transition from focusing on GitLab SaaS first, and then start moving over into jumping to focus on these, but it's not exactly going to be 3 months. It's probably going to be closer to like 4 or 5. I want to work on getting dependency scanning up one maturity level, which indicates that we're going to start having dependency graphs. We also want to start having SBOM in at least 1 or 2 of the main supported formats like SPDX and CycloneDX. Those are the 2 most popular ones we've been asked for so far. And we'd like to replace License Finder. It unfortunately has fallen out of update within the community. It's an open source project. So we're either going to be writing that ourselves into Gymnasium, or we're going to find a different open source project. So if anybody has any recommendations, feel free to comment in the issue with what open source license scanner that you would recommend if there's one you enjoy. And with that, I'll turn it over to Derek.
All right, thank you. Let me share my screen quickly here. And I will go over what we have done and what we're planning on doing in dynamic analysis. So what we've done in the past couple of milestones, the last release especially, we have really improved the DAST site validation. The first thing we did was we moved the validation to the GitLab runner. What this enables is for especially self-managed customers to be able to scan internal sites that don't have a URL that is available outside of their network. So this enables a whole another set of users to be able to run on-demand scans with active scans. We also made it easier to do the site validation by adding in a third option for that validation by adding a meta tag to an HTML web page. And then one other thing that we did that I don't have a specific issue for because it encompasses a lot of different issues is we improved the crawler for the browser-based DAST scanner quite a bit over the last milestone through working with our customers to be able to scan real web pages and applications. We're able to greatly improve the coverage for that and the functionality for the authentication as well as the crawler. So looking ahead, one thing that we are finishing up right now, we are hoping to launch here quickly, is the scan scheduler for on-demand DAST. Right now, you can only do it with manually starting a scan. With this scheduler, you'll be able to schedule scans for the future as well as schedule recurring scans. The next thing that we're working on is our browser-based scanner and crawler, working on improving the spider as well as the authentication. We've got multiple things open that we're working on there, as well as the scans for the passive and active attack parity. So we'll be able to actually do real scanning with the browser-based scanner rather than just do the crawling and send the scanning over to a different engine. And then finally, we're working on the GA for our API security scanner for DAST. Right now it's in beta and it can be used by anyone. However, there are a few things that we're working on improving, and that includes the speed of the scanner. As a part of the SaaS reliability and stability and performance initiatives, we identified this as something that needed to be improved. So we are working on this. Once this is finished off, the API security scanner will be in GA, and we'll be able to use that as our main API security scanner for DAST, as well as this will improve the fuzzing scanner times as well. And with that, I will hand it back over to Hillary.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. And thanks to the rest of the team for going over all your updates today. Also, thanks to those of you who are watching this video, and we look forward to taking your questions during our upcoming live Q&A. See you soon.